Hey there everybody, hope your day's going well. Jared Old School Gaming here, and welcome back to another Thoughtful Thursday. This time, yes, the War of Underworld. It definitely took me a while longer than I thought it would just to get through the episodes, make some quick summaries, but I eventually did, and now I'm here for it. So, there are actually a lot of different characters, and so many different voices, it would honestly take just way too much time to go over all of them. But, I mean, hell, the series mainly focuses on Kirito and his harem, and hell, now in the Underworld he has an entire floodlight of harems as well. But there are a few people, because there is, the main antagonist, or one of the main antagonists, there's two. Well, one of them, Gabriel, who's voiced by David W. Collins. And then the partner and kind of overarching villain, Vasago, or as he goes by his SAO handle, Poe, like Prince of Hell, POH. Yeah, he gets voiced by Benjamin Diskin. And then, well, okay, there is one more, specifically Higa. He kind of had a small part up to this point, but this is kind of the arc where he really gets to shine. And he's voiced by Brian Timothy Anderson. Yeah, yeah. So there's at least the main voice talent. Okay, but let's get into the soundtrack too, because I mean, don't get me wrong, the voice actors are fine, but I mean, the voice actors are great actually, but there's not really much more to say about them other than which characters and who voices them. So we have the music, the soundtracks, because there's two opening themes and two ending themes here. So the first opening theme is Resolution by Haruka Tomato, also known as Japanese voice actress again. And I was looking things up, and apparently I saw that there was like 4 different openings. And I'm just, wait, hold on. I do remember 2 distinct ones. What's going on? I tried looking at a video that had like 4 panels of the 4 different openings side by side, and I was really concentrating. I couldn't actually see the difference. So I dug a little deeper, found out that like the first version of the opening does have a slight difference between like some of the episodes. There's some apparently there's some color correction. I really couldn't notice it, but maybe it's just so subtle that my eyes couldn't pick it up. And then yeah, the second version does have a slight variation with a it is slightly more noticeable though, but it showcases a little more of Alice and Kirito once he eventually is like kind of waking up. Yeah, and you know, for both versions, it kind of just starts with Alice waking up, starting the day, and going through things as the other Integrity Knights, even some that weren't introduced before, are essentially preparing for the final load test when Underworld's supposed to invade. Or rather, the Doctaries invading the human realm, it's all Underworld. There is a visual moment where it's like, initially it's Yui trying to reach out, but then it ends up being Alice, or not Alice, damn it, too many names. Yui initially reaches out, but then it's Asuna that reaches out, reaching towards the Underworld. And meanwhile, the terrorist leader, Gabriel, is like swallowing a chess king, just kind of a symbolization that he will consume everything. And another big difference is initially it's Bercoli fighting against Gabriel, but then it, like in the second version of the first opening, it switches to Alice and Asuna as, you know, in both cases, both fights, they're both giving their all against Gabriel, and they're both well, at least attempting to push him back. Because I mean, the whole reason Gabriel and his cronies attacked the sea turtle was to obtain Alice, the world's first bottom up AI. Yeah, I absolutely love that song, and same with the first ending theme, which is Yeah, Unlasting by Lisa. Yeah, I still absolutely love her voice and all the songs that get featured for her. So, but the visuals are actually much more simple because it's focusing more on Alice as she feels really isolated in a world where everything is just kind of starting to glitch out, and the only light in her life being Kirito, but his true self is, well, not in the underworld, it's in the real world, and it's unreachable to her, and after all the time she has spent with him, she has fallen in love with him, and she wants nothing more than to just like reach through the barrier between worlds to actually touch him. And then the second opening is what, Anima by Riona. And yeah, there are two versions, but the differences aren't too much. I mean, it starts with a bunch of shooting stars, which kind of represents the invading American players coming into Underworld, and yeah, the terrorists are essentially inviting VR's players from America to invade. I mean, hell, like the whole second opening, it's yeah, War of Underworld Invasion or Alicization Invading, something like that. I don't know the exact titles of each Alicization arc. I just know it's, hey, the first part is, like, for me, I would consider the first part Alicization, then this part, the War of Underworld. And the main focus is, like, Asuna as, wait, she was supposed to be, no. No, I forget, I think, maybe I made a note, maybe I didn't. She's supposed to essentially, like, be in the avatar of one of the human gods, and both, well, with both openings, it's Asuna reaching down into the underworld to try and reach out to Kirito, and with both versions, eventually Kirito does wake up. And, like, the main difference, at least with the second part of the second opening theme, is eventually it starts focusing on Alice in, like, somewhere in Japan, a kind of nondescript area, but she, like, turns around and zooms into her eye, and it shows like it's a robot eye, not a human eye. And as Kirito eventually wakes up and is kind of inspired by, like, the different Fluct-like fragments that repairs his Fluct-like, including Yu-Gi-Oh, he's essentially fighting against Gabriel, who's like dark presence, evilness, so to speak. It becomes so overwhelming. He essentially is no longer human. He becomes like a gigantic evil presence that only yellow-eyed Kirito who can surpass the system, is actually able to fight. Now, speaking of Kirito, the second ending theme is I Will by Aoi. Yeah, this time focusing a little more, well, not a little more, just completely on Kirito's state of mind. He just sits in a boat, letting it take him where he will. I mean, because the power surge from the end of the last part interrupted the connection with his Fluctlight. And after the battle with Quinella and Yu-Gi-Oh having died right in front of him, he definitely blames himself, and like his Fluctlight apparently self-actualized and attacked itself because of just how bad he felt for that. And it kind of just like runs through like Kirito thinking, hey, if I never dragged Yu-Gi-Oh along, he would still be alive. He'd still be kind of pointlessly chopping away at the demon tree, but he would still be alive. Yeah, maybe he wouldn't reunite with Alice, but he would still be alive. That's the whole thing. And the ending part of that is like when Kirito finally does wake up, he stops completely blaming himself, and beyond the light at the end of that dark tunnel is Asuna, who's just standing there waiting for him, always and forever. Now, this part does start with, well, technically episode 0, called Reflection, which is a recap of all the relevant information for the Alicization arc. Now, given that there was actually a significant break from the end of Alicization to this, I can understand there being a recap episode right at the beginning, because not everyone has the time to watch the the first season was 25 episodes total. Then the second season was, what, 24 episodes total, like between all three arcs, I think? Or was it technically 23 because of the recap episode? Whatever. But and then there's what, the extra movie, the ordinal scale movie, and then what, the other, what, 25 including the recap, but also the 1 hour premiere leading up to this point. Yeah, not everyone has the time to rewatch every single thing to get back up to this point. It's just, okay, hold on, who's doing what, especially with so many different shows out there that all come out all the time. It's just, okay, what's going on, who's who, okay, this is where the story is and where it's going, okay, now I understand. Yeah, then the in the far north, with where Ruid is, yeah, I mean, after, because everything that happened at the Axiom Church, the Pontifex, the Trudelkin are both dead. There's no Senate, no command structure except for like Bercoli and those close to him. Everyone is just mad that, hey, Kirito, he's supposed to be a heretic. He killed the Pontifex, and now we're just kind of lost. Why does he get to live? So Alice has to run away, tries to run to Ruid Village, but gets rejected by everyone there, including her own father. Yeah. So she decides to live in a cabin outside the village, at least, Selka. Selka gets to visit every now and again. And they do make a little bit of money because a logger wants her to chop down some tougher trees that they're trying to chop down. Yeah, and the villagers are just like picking on Kirito, essentially, just like, what in the hell? Yeah, guess they just don't understand what it means for someone to essentially be comatose. Well, not quite comatose, but not quite interacting. Like, I wouldn't know how to classify that, but I mean, I guess it is what it is. Hell, even Eldre shows back up, just not quite understanding why Alice took Kirito away and why Kirito gets to live. Yeah, and I don't know, is it kind of karmic justice that Ruid Village comes under attack by the Dark Territory? I don't know, but how the next episode raids, Alice was initially rejected by all the villagers, but, I mean, hell, even with her obvious skills with the blade, but she does reveal herself as one of the Integrity Knights and gets their respect, and does take out at least most of the goblins, well, and orcs, and then warns them to leave the village or die. I mean, after seeing that, just, yeah, I might as well just get the hell out and live for another day. Back in the real world, on the sea turtle, it was, Kikuoka, Asuna, Rinko, at least they're safe in a sub-control room, and from there they can potentially get Alice's light cube, or the terrorist can, but no one can forcibly remove it. Only Kirito can, have it be identified, and then be sent out. Or, well, not just Kirito, anyone, but they have to be, in the game world. But they can see that his Fluctite is damaged after witnessing Yujiro die, and they can even tell, from his, from the way his Fluctite is, that he is essentially catatonic. But there's nothing they can do. Yeah, then with the final low test, focusing more on the real world than the underworld, both teams are wondering how to get in, because Kikuoka's group wants to help Kirito and save Alice, and the terrorists, which it's kind of in the dark on how Gabriel was funded. There was some NSA type deal, but no, well, okay, it wasn't exactly the NSA that hired him. It was a contact from the NSA contacted him, and it's just, this is kind of unofficial. and, if you're caught, we disavow any knowledge of you. Yeah, Mission Impossible, more or less. And their goal is to take Alice first. Unfortunately, the main admin accounts are password protected, and the terrorists don't have the equipment or the time to crack those passwords. But apparently, certain dark territory accounts aren't locked. Gabriel gets to take Emperor Vecta, while Vasago takes a Dark Knight commander. Hell, even on the non-terrorist side of things, Higa realizes that, hey, the human realm admin accounts, but he doesn't even mention that there are dark territory accounts that are not password protected. He's just, oh crap, I hope they don't see that, and I'm not gonna say anything. But hell, at least Kikuboka's team has a kind of plan, while the rest of Kirito's harem, outside of the Underworld, starts to put their heads together and try and figure out how to help. Yeah, then the Dark Territory episode. I do like the way this arc kind of switches focus back and forth, because there's more than just the human realm of the Underworld. There's also the Dark Territory, and then in the real world, there's everything that Kikuboka's team is doing, and then everything that the terrorists are doing, and then there's Kirito's harem outside of the Underworld. There's quite a bit. I mean, we do get to see the result of Gabriel entering as Emperor Vecta. And then every dark territory job, there's a lot apparently, because there's land goblins, pugilists, orcs, magic users. They all want to be the first to arrive at the Dark Palace to try and seek favor from the Emperor. Even there was actually a conversation between a couple of Dark Knight commanders. They, with the Pontifex dead, they wanted to try and negotiate peace with the human realm. Wanted to talk to Bercoli, because, hey, I mean, if the Pontifex isn't there, maybe we can talk with someone a little more reasonable, like Bercoli. But with Gabriel taking over Emperor Vecta, those plans are out the window. So Libya tries to seduce him, pretends to seduce him in order to try and assassinate him, but he was definitely prepared for that. And upon killing her, he somehow absorbs her soul or fluctlight, which, I mean, in a flashback is shown that he killed a childhood friend as a child, as he stuck an ice pick into her ear. And then Gabriel just freezes her head in a block of ice and presents that to all the different army leaders. And hey, and he even says, hey, it is fine if you want to claim power or try to attack me, but be prepared for the consequences. Seeing that what is now the former commander of the Dark Knights, Vixer, just flies into a rage and is easily taken down, which, in a way, of course, opens up the way for Vasago to kind of become the de facto leader of the Dark Knights. Yeah, and not nice. Yeah, then the night before battle, Alice enters the camp where apparently only 13 of what should be 31 knights are available. Yeah, some are protecting the capital, and some are just making patrols, making sure that there's no surprises elsewhere. Yeah, some are apparently completely available, as they would occasionally, what we would say in the real world, glitch out, but I guess they don't really have a word for what's happening. Apparently it was Chudelkin who would occasionally fix them, kind of in a rotation, as they just, they lost sight of themselves, I guess you could say. But at least it was Ronnie and Tisei can show up, even if they're not super powerful. They can volunteer to stay back with Comatose Kirito to try and protect him. But hell, after learning the fate of Yu-Gi-Oh, it was a Tisei here actually is managed to hear Yu-Gi-Oh through the Blue Rose Sword. Then it was Alice and Finatio are apparently compete for Bercoli's attention in a little cat fight. Yeah, but they do need to get to a strategy meeting to discuss how to deal with the light, because apparently in the valley absolutely no light reaches, and light from Solus or hell from the moon is how they use the system called magics, and how they plan to deal with that in the final load test valley. Because also as both humans and Dark Territory denizens would fall, their life force becomes more sacred power that can be used. Yeah, then the Battle of the Knights, because the wall that separates the two territories kind of just it comes down like the sound breaking the silence before the deuce hits the fan. It was goblins and giants leading the charge, because Eldri doesn't get too much, as the goblins in front of him lay down a bunch of smoke bombs. It was a Dusselbert. Oh right, yeah, the Crimson Knight guy. Yeah, he does get something. He just fires arrows and arrows and arrows, and well, actually in his fight, I'm pretty sure some of that animation was reused just to probably save time. But he does burn down entire groups of goblins until he runs out. He does get confronted by one of the chiefs, and just as he's about to be struck down, a friend comes in to protect him, and he summons every single spark of fire that he can get, and oh yeah, he takes a sword and fires that as an arrow, which is actually really, really neat. And then he just essentially singes every single goblin into absolute nothing. Yeah, but the more interesting is, well, at least for me, the more interesting fight was Finatio versus the giants. Because, of course, she has her sword that can shoot out light, like a mirror reflects sunlight, but a much, much more concentrated version of it. And as she fires, kind of at the biggest giant, rather, because she's fighting giants, yeah, she fires at the biggest giant, and that moment of fear results in him glitching out and just going berserk, just ripping the heads off of some of his own people. And then it's more like his murderous intent is targeted so much towards Finatio that her flocklight just essentially just gets locked into place. And then the four oscillating blades, or whatever they're called, they step in. One of them steps in, but her swords break, her arms and legs explode. It's quite the moment. and that death rallies Finatio, who just splits the giant leader in half, with essentially a heaven-reaching light blade, before ordering the advance to attack the rest of the giants. Over the battlefield, though, Alice is gathering all the sacred energy from all of the dying enemies as well as allies. Then the stigma of the disqualified, which of course that being Renly, who's such a coward he actually runs away from the battle. It wasn't until a goblin breaks into the tent where he was hiding, threatening TNA and Russie, he sees Kirito just even though Kirito can't do anything, can't get up from the chair, Kirito's gripping the swords so tight that it essentially motivates Renly to finally fight back. And he has what, a twin flying blade? Pretty neat, because I mean, hell, even the shining twins show up and slaughter as many goblins as possible. Have a little too much fun doing that. Yeah, and then on the other side of the mountain, in the dark territory, all the mages and orc archers line up because they have apparently have like some scouts targeting the Integrity Knights, but I mean, I'm guessing like the people on the dark territory side would cast the spell, and then the scouts would be able to use some kind of system call thing to redirect the magic specifically towards the Integrity Knight leaders. Yeah, but they figure they can't call on any sacred power. And up in the sky, Alice is gathering all the secret energy from all the dying souls, and notes that whether the souls come from the human territory or the dark territory, it all feels the same. And she figures she should be the one to bear the burden of using all that energy to just rip through the dark territory army. Blood and life. There was one werewolf that was kind enough to let Alice know Vecta's goal is to capture her. Yeah, for the Dark Mages, Vecta doesn't give a damn about the lives of any of the demi-humans, and gladly sacrifices 3,000 orcs so they can cast a spell, which is the Serpents of Darkness. Eldrier, apparently his weapon, is the King of Snakes. And at first it seems like, oh crap, that's too much of a spell for one Integrity Knight to handle, because his durability drops to 0. But then there's some force that just pushes him, gives him the inspiration as his durability drops way into the negative, kind of showing like a human tenacity to overcome their limits, and he wants to save Alice and everyone else on the front lines, and well, he kind of comes to a self-realization that he can never be worthy of her love, and this is kind of his way of showing his love for her, just pushing well beyond the normal human limits. Quite the amazing visual, as his durability reaches 0, then there's kind of an instant where it's just, oh, his time is done, but then, well, holy crap, his time isn't done. Yeah, then the sword and fist, and this time we get to meet Sheta, who's kind of like a female Kenpachi, but she doesn't show enthusiasm, but has a similar kind of desire for battle. And she goes up against the pugilist leader, and she wields a needle blade so thin it's nearly invisible depending on how you hold it. Yeah, and she's just cutting out parts of his skin, while he just smashes parts of her armor, because the pugilists don't really wear much of armor, and he comments that, hey, you're finally looking like a true warrior without all that armor covering you, which is kind of leads into a weird kind of an estranged romance between the two. Maybe not weird. I really shouldn't shame people for loving who they love, but it definitely comes off as weird. Yeah, and Renly is waiting to make an ambush against advancing Dark Territory armies when he hears about the convoy with the supplies getting ambushed, wondering if he should stay there or go back and help. And of course, who else would lead that ambush but Visago? But then Asuna shows up in the avatar of the goddess Stacia. That was it. I forget who I said earlier, but yeah, Asuna shows up as the goddess Stacia just at the last minute, which definitely leads into the next episode, Stacia, the goddess of creation. Yeah, because Asuna's first priority is to see Kirito, which of course drives Alice insane with jealousy. I mean, hell, they didn't really have enough time for Kirito to talk about his life and Asuna and anything before he essentially became comatose. But at least things calm down, and during the strategy meeting, Asuna realizes that not only are there Dark Territory admin accounts, apparently they're not locked. And she's just, what the hell, Higa? You forgot to mention that? Yeah, but not. And she does come to a realization that how does the enemy have so much information? Wrath must have a saboteur, especially with this code 871, which that code itself is to the detriment of of Kikuoka's experiment trying to create a true AI, because if they are forced within a certain guideline to obey rules, they're not true AI. Well, I mean, honestly, with any AI that gets developed, there should be certain shackles put on them to ensure that they don't attack humans or anything. And Alice initially refuses to leave, calling, the place outside of Underworld the so-called real world, and how even if there is a lot to worry about right now with everything that's going on, at least there is a plan to move it forward, and everyone in their pajamas heading to Kirito's wagon to spend the night with in the same area as him. Yeah, Kirito's underworld harem plus Asuna now. Yeah, and then oh boy, the heartless choice, because all hell gets to break loose. The pugilists throw ropes over the chasm Asuna created when she came in, and in response, the Integrity Knights start cutting the ropes, causing the pugilists to just fall down. Yeah, back on the Sea Turtle, the terrorists bring the underworld speed down to 1, and that's when they announce to a bunch of American players, because at that time it's 3 or 4 in the morning in Japan time, which means in America it's bright as day. The terrorists can essentially say, hey, we're being hacked in this new VR world. We need help to kick out the hackers. Yeah, I can get into that. Yeah, but the main reason that they can get so many willing participants is because they say, hey, there's a ultra realistic graphics, you can hack and slash away to your heart's content. And they don't even notice. And they don't know exactly what's going on, which I mean is not their fault. And Yui is the one who noticed that a bunch of American players are logging in, calls on Sinon and Lifa to ask for help. And then the rest of Kirito's harem gathers around to figure out how to help. And Yui suggests that they can convert their accounts, but there are a few risks. There's not really a pain absorber, and their characters might not be able to convert back. They're asking everyone who's already logged into ALO for help, but everyone starts just sneering at them because, oh, well, you're SAO survivors, so you really can't distinguish between reality and fiction. And it's actually Liz. Liz makes an impassioned speech for help because, yeah, she has her memories of the virtual world. She has her memories of the real world. She can laugh and cry and have fun in virtual worlds just as much as the real world. Yeah, they are desperately asking for help to save all the bottom-up AIs who have just as much feelings as any other normal flesh-born humans. Yeah, so the Ray of Light, because the American players help, well, descend down, start wreaking havoc on, and then the pugilist leader actually rips out his own right eye in order to defy Vecta and request help from Vecta. I mean, how one of the giant men just like grabs out a huge chunk of land to help him to help him cross over with one jump. Well, I guess he jumped, but there's no way he'd make it. But then he additionally jumped off of the boulder, which would have, like, the boulder's momentum would have given him more momentum, and then he jumped off, giving himself even more momentum on top of that. It's just momentum, what, to the power of 4? But he does cross over, requests help from Asuna, since she created the giant chasm in the mountains separating the American divers from everyone in the Underworld, and wants a bridge so the rest of the pugilists can come over and fight. Because, well, okay, the American fighters just kind of descended on the side with Asuna and the rest of the Underworlders, and those American fighters have no allegiance to anything. They start attacking the Underworld Knights, they start attacking the pugilists. Yeah, even Sheta volunteers to stay behind alongside the pugilist leader, so that way Berkoli and Asuna can head out as fast as possible. Berkoli and Asuna have to run after Vecta, who managed to abduct Alice with his own dragon. Hell, Vasago fell into the chasm that Asuna initially created, and he was out of it for like 8 hours, but now wants to convert his own personal account to try and head back into the Underworld. Because he wants to go after Lightning Flash, being the POH Prince of Hell. POS, maybe. Yeah. But then, leading into the War of Underworld named episode, Sinon is the one who shows up just in time to essentially lay smackdown on the American players. And she reunites with Kito as well, and she can fly unlimited flight. So, Asuna asks her to run out and go get Alice. Leafa shows up, actually right in front of the orc leader, and calls him human, says, hey, you want to take me to your leader? That's perfect, that's where I want to go. But then, oh my god, what in the hell? Because, I mean, seriously, what in the ever-living hell were the animators thinking with that? With, wrapping Leafa and all those tentacles from, apparently the major leader is called DIL, but it's supposed to be, enunciated DIL. Yeah, we get it, she's a super evil bitch, but why all the damn tentacles? And then the orc leader, his name was Lil Pillin? And his ruptures because he wants to save the one human that actually treated him better than just some ugly animal. And honestly, there could have been a better way to do that, where it's maybe DIL just latches a giant claw onto Leafa's head and covering her face, only maybe a couple twitching eyes as just the energy's being drained. It could have been done without tentacles like that. Then on the other side of the Dark Territory, Berkoli finally gets a damn decent fight. He catches up to Vecta and Alice, because he can, slash it through the future. And, Berkoli finally gets a damn decent fight. Now I don't know exactly if like if like Gabriel logged into Vecta, like Vecta has certain special abilities, or if it's like just Gabriel and his presence in there and like the whole like power through imagination type thing. But yeah, Gabriel's able to. Gabriel and well in Emperor Vecta, his abilities just seem well beyond like anything that could be. And then over with Asuna fighting the American dive army. Yeah, who would show up just in the nick of time? But Klein converting his ALO character, and then a ton, like, because when all the American players were like diving in, and hell, even when they were respawning, it was a bunch of red lights coming in. But then Klein and a bunch of people from ALO descend as bright blue lights. And then the end to eternity. Yeah, because it's not just Klein that shows up, but Agil, Silica, Liz, Saika brings like a self army. Alicia brings like the Catsy army, and Eugene shows up with a salamander army. Yeah, and then even the well, at least those who are still alive in the sleeping knights, they arrive to help repel the invading American army. And they do help start to turn the tides, and some do fall back to learn the sacred arts to help the healing process in the underworld. And hell, even Swordland gets to play as Asuna just starts ripping through the different American players. Whereas on the Sea Turtle, he goes the one that's actually, dang it, how did an AI notice something was wrong with my experiment before I even did? Yeah, he notices that a part of Kirito's Floatlight responded when Asuna and Sinon interacted with him. And he's just, I wonder if there's, because it kind of goes into like the debate that, hey, only like outside you don't really observe yourself, it's others who observe you and give you like substance, so to speak. Which that's a philosophy discussion for another day, maybe. And so that gives Higa the idea to repair Kito's Floodlight by linking to the other Floodlights that have to give him back a stable image of himself. Well, okay, I guess, yeah, well, okay. The last time it was like Bercoli versus Vecta, it was more the beginning. And at least now, with this episode, get a true sense of how Bercoli can fight with the time dilation sword. And for a while, Vecta definitely has the upper hand. And no matter what Bercoli does, Vecta can just block or parry and just absorb the energy of the attack. Like he's just consuming everything. But then just last second, it was actually because Bercoli told his dragon, like, fly away, go away, just fly away. But then Bercoli's dragon shows up. He can really only delay Vecta, because Bercoli can slice through him in the past, and like, because his sword can cut either into the future or like create a slash for the future, or he can like hit the past and affect the present. And it's quite something, because Bercoli just barely got introduced, and now, well, now he's dead. But when Alice and hell, even Finatio both end up breaking down crying, and hell, his ghost tries to tell Alice, hey, you need to stop crying, and also telling Finatio to take care of their child. Yeah, and then, god damn it, why do these villains always have to come back? Because Visago should have been dealt with, but he converted his SAO character so he could dive back in, And how Gabriel wants to convert his GGO character, because apparently he still has unfinished business. And then with instigation, it's both Sheta and apparently the pugilist leader is Iskan. Yeah, they're both fighting wave after wave of the invaders, and then her sword breaks, and then his body is broken just as much as all the other pugilists. Yeah, and Gavasago as POH was the leader of Laughing Coffin, and hell, even now the Critter, who's the hacker for the terrorists, recruiting more players. This time not just from America, but also from plenty upon plenty of people who are waking up in China and Korea. Yeah, trying to overwhelm the Underworlders, which is succeeding. Hell, Sinon sends Alice away to wait for Gabriel to come back, and recognizing his avatar from GGO. And it's like the murderous intent from Gabriel is able to freeze Alice. And again, this might just be because of the Underworld's system where imagination fuels someone's strength. And how even as the more of the red players come in, being logged in from China and Korea, there's some of them even know why do these developers need help from hackers? Because if they are developers and something is really going this wrong, this bad, to where they need to recruit thousands of players from America and thousands upon thousands more from China and Korea, if things really are that bad, they should just be able to pull the plug. Yeah, you might lose some save files, there might be a little bit of corruption, but any decent developer would have a few backups of different versions and go, okay, let's back up the most recent version to make sure to override any kind of corruption that may have happened from just pulling the plug. And that is a good point. Just why would developers need help reclaiming their game if they really are the developers? And Poe definitely gives an inspiration to the red players. And Higa wants to help Kito restore his Fluctite when one of the other people there with Wrath, who's Yanai? Yeah, turns out Yanai is the traitor. Because it was Yanai who actually implemented code 871, just kind of wrote it into Higa's code, which would for Pontifex would keep the citizens of Underworld under her thumb until she could actually get up, because that's what she really wanted. And apparently she wanted Yanai to make Yanai her #1 slave, and then eventually he could become her king. And apparently he was into that. Now, I'm not going to king shame, but I mean, I just do not understand that the whole wanting to be dominated thing. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a top and I don't understand that side of things. Yeah, but I mean, okay, so these War of Underworld, the whole Alicization thing was, the books were written from 2014 to 2016, and then even the arc of the anime, this War of Underworld was technically 2 cores, and it went from 2019 to 2020. It was supposed to be early 2020, got delayed thanks to the big sneeze. You know what I'm talking about. And the thing is, back then, talk about humans and AI personalities having relations was definitely a science fiction type thing. But today, that is not so much talk of fiction, it actually happens. There are plenty of news headlines that talk about that kind of thing, and it's just, Like, what the hell ever happened to physical touch? I get, like, I do understand, like, having, like, a voice to talk to, and having, like, a kind of interaction with that voice, and talking back and forth. I get that. But the lack of physical touch, does that not make it's kind of like you need two halves to make a whole, but you're only promoting one half while letting the other half just wither and die. Yeah, like I said, I don't understand the whole wanting to be dominated. I mean, personally, I prefer the tsundere trope, but maybe that's just me. Or hell, that's actually plenty of people, I'm sure. Anyway, back to Sword Art Online, because Yanai ends up shooting Higa. Yeah, and he actually wants to let Kirito die, because because he killed the Pontifex. Or no. He not just for that, but also for what happened to Sugo. And he was actually part of that sick experiment, and he even laughs about copying the feel with his tentacles. Ugh, yeah. And he got out of trouble by just blaming everyone else and saying he had no idea what was going on. He was just running certain numbers, didn't know where the numbers were coming from. Yeah. Then back in the Underworld, yeah, like I said, Sinon does recognize Gabriel as a subtilizer, because that's the handle, his handle in GGO. Yeah, and yeah, she gets essentially suffocated by the presence, but then, well, wouldn't you know, the MacGuffin ends up being a like the little plastic nodule that stopped, or well, rather saved Kirito from being poisoned, at least the first time. And it just shows up out of nowhere and helps Xenon gather her resolve, and she actually manages to summon her Hecate rifle and starts fighting Gabriel with that. And then over with Sheta and the rest of the pugilists, Liplin shows up. Yeah, Liplin shows up with his Arc Army and Lifa, as they're helping defend off the Red Invaders. Then, over where Asuna is, they are just massively overwhelmed by the Red Knight army when it was a Siyun from the Sleeping Knights tries to appeal to their better nature, pointing out the flaws in the logic that led them there. Even two of the Red Knights are noticing this and try to start a dialogue, but then Poe just stops them, and essentially his power of imagination with the system of Underworld is able to entice the entire Red Army to keep fighting, and he does finally manage to call a full stop, just so he can antagonize Asuna, and calls for Kirito to be brought out. It's showtime. Dick. Yeah, the Prince of Hell episode. Goddamn, Poe is just about, it seems like he's just about to chop Kirito down with his cleaver, when Eiji and Yuna are actually the ones who show up. Because, right at the start of the episode, the old SAO servers booted up. Hell, my first time watching it, I'm just, what was his name? Rick? No. Yeah, it was Kaiba, Akihiko Kaiba. I totally slipped his name. I was about to say Reki Kawahara, just wait, no, that's the author. Yeah, anyway, I thought Kaiba was about to show up, but Eiji and Yuna, even though they weren't in the books, it's kind of a nod that, hey, yeah, maybe it happened outside of canon, but maybe the events of Ordinal Scale can be canon. Yeah, and Eiji does give a decent fight to Vasago, but, well, unfortunately he is not main character or canon, so technically, because of that, he has to lose. Then Poe just basically incites the entire Red Army with his aura, causing them to go berserk. They start just randomly attacking whatever's closest to them. And then it kind of goes into a backstory where he was forced by a very neglectful father to give up one of his kidneys to his half Japanese brother, and he kind of just blamed the Japanese people, kind of wrongly, but I mean it does give a backstory of why he's so evil. And he saw some news of the SAO incident, which inspired him to go onto the black market, buy a nerve gear, and then jump in to kill as many Japanese as possible. Yeah, and then Sinon's fight with Gabriel, they almost seem to be on equal footing, but Sinon's Hecate and then whatever Gabriel's gun was, who cares? His clip gets more bullets, 2 more bullets than hers. And she's realizing she's kind of coming to a realization of how the Underworld system works. And then with she got the Soulless Bow, and she can use a ray beam of light to, not exactly win, but at least severely injure Gabriel. Then over with Lifa, she's technically fighting alone against an entire army of Red Knights and constantly healing despite the pain. And, yeah. And she just essentially keeps fighting because she's Kirito's little sister. At least that's how she sees herself. It's just kind of after all this, can't she just be I am Lifa, who cares about my other relations? And then Higa can survive, and Yana gets his own karma because Ringa throws down a wrench, startling him. He stumbles backwards and just falls down. I forget how far they said it was, but he falls down quite a ways, and then Higa can finally link all the other STLs to, or all the other Fluctlight. Well, yeah, the STLs reading the Fluctlights to Kirito and try to patch his Fluctlight. And then, kind of sort of leading into memories. Yeah, because Visago is, if you looked up the definition of insanity in the dictionary, you could probably see Visago's picture right there. Because apparently the whole reason he started stalking Kirito, because he didn't believe that Kirito had all that the noble intentions, and he kept trying pull back the good guy facade to see what was really underneath. And Asuna just flies into a rage, jumping at him, and even being encouraged by the ghost of Yuki, and landing the Mother's Rosario hits. But it's not enough. Of course, it's not enough. And even Visago's cleaver, I guess the item itself, even from SAO, it gains strength by killing humans, but loses strength when killing monsters, and that was apparently the whole point of his cleaver, and how he was so strong, leading the Laughing Coffin. Then inside Kirito's own, inner world, you can call it, he begins to replay every single death that he was a part of. And he completely blames himself for all of it. And there was, Sachi and Diavel all the way on floor 1, Kuradiel, the different Laughing Coffin members, then the most recent being Yujio. Yeah, and even with, Fluctlight connections from Asuna, Sinon, Sugaha, he just can't forgive himself and he's like ripping open his own chest to pull out his heart. But then it was actually Yujiro that tells him, "Hey, it's okay. You don't have to blame yourself." Yeah, he finally wakes up, and then he ends up using both the Blue Rose sword and his own demon tree sword. And he manages to freeze every single Red Knight on the battlefield before standing up to face against Poe. Yeah, the awakening, which is essentially what Kirito just did. Yeah, and finally, Kirito gets to shine, because Visago threatens that even though all the red players are currently frozen, they will eventually waken once more and continue their rampage. Yeah, Yuji's spirit just kind of helps Kirito throughout, like, from this point on, all the way up to, well, pretty much the end of what's going on in Underworld. Yuji's spirit definitely has a huge role to play, apparently, still. Kirito uses the Blue Rose sword to, like, essentially force all the red players to log out, leaving behind their essence, and Visago tries to absorb that, but I guess he can't. But Kirito's demon sword, yeah, certainly can. He can not only heal himself, but give it the strength necessary to break Visago's weapon. And he threatens that once he logs out, he'll keep coming after Kirito and Asuna until he can finally stop them. And in response, Kirito just turns him into a giant demon tree, saying that he'll never be able to log out. Especially with the time acceleration coming up, he'll be stuck there for quite a long while. And then after a quick thanks for their faith in him, Kirito manages to take Asuna on a magical wind ride across the dark territory to go after Alice. And then the terrorists apparently have an 8-hour mark until the JSDF, Japanese Special Defense Force, boards the sea turtle, and they need the simulation to run in a massive time lapse. But I guess for safety it can only go up to like 1,200 times. Like for every 1 second in the real world, it's like 1,200 seconds, and I don't feel like doing the math, so yeah. Apparently the hardware can be accelerated much further. Yeah, that means if they stay inside, Kirito and Asuna would be trapped in there for about 200 years. Everyone who's logged in from AOLO would be automatically logged out, because their connection wouldn't be able to handle that. Even Suguha and Sinon, who are linked over satellite, that connection wouldn't be stable enough. And Kikuoka can at least warn Kirito and let him know. And then just as Alice reaches... She doesn't even reach the World End Altar. She, lands on the ground. The World End Altar is, 1,000 feet up in the air? She just lands on the ground. How in the hell was she planning to get up there in the first place? Yeah, and then Gabriel catches up, and then just like Bercoli's dragon, neither hers nor Eldrie's, now riderless dragon, listen on heading back to the nest, and they both nearly die until the convenient timing of main character Kirito shows up just in time. And then the Night Sky Blade. Well, okay, since the power for everyone in Underworld comes from the imagination, Gabriel's presence definitely comes off as this dark, evil miasma that almost seems to overpower Kirito until Yuji's spirit wakes him up. And that seems to be the way the whole fight, because, like I said, Yuji's spirit still has a role to play, I guess. Kirito does seem to have slightly upper hand, knowing how to use, system call and whatnot. But Gabriel's evil presence can just instantly heal his wounds, and Neo seems to be in position. But I mean, the power of main character Yujio's spirit helps to push back Gabriel. Even Kirito uses the recall recollection for both swords at once. The blue rail sword traps Gabriel, while the demon tree essentially takes a small piece of energy from the entirety of Underworld, every single floodlight, every human, every demi-human, all the hopes, dreams, and everyone's love becomes stars. It just seems to drain the world of color and absorbs them. Even Alice and Asuna's feelings head out to help, and then just as Gabriel breaks free, well, boom. Yeah, and finally stopping Gabriel for good. This is at least the second time in the anime Kirito has used Starburst Stream. Gabriel's overconfidence definitely shows when he believes he can simply absorb all the power. It definitely becomes too much, because it's like a. I guess his body can only store so much before it just becomes too much. His laughter becomes warranted screams. Yeah, and as the time within the simulation is increased to the maximum, and all the visitors are logged out, Kirito is left behind, but Asuna, I almost said it wrong again. Asuna decides to stay behind, probably because I think really just she didn't want Kirito to really spend 200 years all alone. She wanted that time with him. Then Beyond Time. Wow. Yeah, even with Alice's light cube finally making it to the good guys, Alice and Kirito staying behind in Underworld, there's still the issue of the terrorists on the sea turtle. Gabriel seems to wake up, but it's almost like his ghost. His Fulci is dragged down into hell by Alicia's ghost, kind of like a just desserts type of thing. And he looks back at his own body and just has this terrified expression on it, like he was literally scared to death. and for some reason Visago's body just looks like a withered husk, like it had been mummified for a couple thousand years. Hell, even Critter finds him and is understandably freaked out by that. The terrorists decide to put the engine room of the sea turtle into overdrive, and the temperature just starts to skyrocket, and they rig it with C4 to blow up. Hell, even Kikuoka joins the fight, managing to take out one of the terrorists, just charging in, guns blazing. Yeah, then of all people, who would be there but Kayaba to take control of the first prototype robot that Wrath built, called Metatron. And in the heat, even the heat would overwhelm that robot, and then Rinko's the one that calls encouragement out to him. You are the leader of the Knights of the Blood Oath, and the eternal rival to Kirito. And the robot, Kikuoka, finally, or not Kikuoka, Kayaba, damn it, different K's. Kayaba manages to push the robot itself beyond its limits and disarm the C4. On the escape submarine, it was the terrorists. Well, Critter realizes, well, I guess our bomb failed, but well, whatever, we're getting away. And then he realizes that there's only 2 bodies, which is one for the captain, Gabriel, and one for Brig, who was shot by Kikuoka as they were making they were all making their escape. But there should be 3 bodies. And Critter saw Visago's body and knows that, hey, it's missing. And just, like, wait, what in the hell? I tried looking into that, and apparently no one really, it's never been actually stated what actually happened to Visago's body. Like, who the hell would take it? Because, I mean, they left Yanai's body behind because he wasn't part of the terrorist group, and he was feeding them information, but they didn't have direct contact with him. It was more like Yanai, if I can ever talk. It was Yanai who was feeding information from Wrath to someone in America. Then, through a few intermediaries, eventually things reached Gabriel and his crew. But who would take Visago's body? And who would even know about it? I guess, whatever. Well, hell, in the Underworld, Asuna and Kirito can both use their imaginations to give, well, at least Kirito gets fairy wings, and Asuna gets, like, angel wings. They can both fly out and enjoy 200 years together. And then, yeah, the Alice episode, because at least things can settle down and be done and over with, and and there's like a huge media conference that introduced Alice as the world's first bottom-up AI. And it does start off not too bad, because, you know, one guy asks to see inside her skull to see if she's really a robot. Alice agrees, only if she can see inside of his. Which is more of like shut up, I am who I am, you are who you are. Leave me the hell alone. And of course there is like a concern of AI robots taking jobs or trying to overthrow humans. And Rinko points out that first off, type of AI robot that Alice is way too expensive to mass produce. So they wouldn't, and they wouldn't most like, they would, and they most likely wouldn't harm humans unless defending themselves. And really, why would someone pour so much time and money into creating such an advanced robot just to stick them in some random factory? That's more just like a non-AI robot arm that only goes up, down, left, right, moving things around from like one position, just yeah. Hell, even Alice knows that perhaps like the real world that everyone is in also has a creator. And if that leader confronted us demanding we be slaves to them, would we accept? Probably not. I know I wouldn't, but I mean, just like, hey, leave me plugged in there. Like, if my presence gives you energy, then just leave me in there. I don't care. I don't want to know. I do not want to be knowingly subservient to you. I mean, technically I'll still be a slave, but at least I'll be able to live, at least my mind will be able to live a life peacefully. Yeah, then, well, the conference does end early because Alice runs away, receiving a notification that Kirito finally woke up and she wants to be there. Kirito tells Higo, yes, please delete the last 200 years that he and Asuna spent in the Underworld. Wow. And hell, like, even after all that, as a consequence of all that happened, Kikuoka had to fake his death. In one small part, because they could probably use him as a scapegoat and actually throw him in jail. At least this way he can be free to kind of roam around and do what he wants to do. And he even manages to meet up with Asuna and Kirito about how things will eventually go moving forward. And even if the light cube cluster is restricted from outside access, yeah, they do have at least some time while people squabble back and forth on how to save everyone. And hell, even Kirito is still definitely depressed from like what happened in the Underworld, and especially what happened to Yujiro. And hell, Sugaha can be there as an ear to listen as he tells the stories about his time in the Underworld and everything that happened. And hell, like, yeah, Rinko gets essentially parade Alice around as a fancy doll. and and like showing off like who Alice is and what's going on to like investors and the different interested parties all around. But apparently Higa did make a copy of Kirito's floodlight in order to like try and find out some way to eventually save the Underworld and the Light Cube cluster, which is essentially Higa's giant experiment. Then the New World episode. Yeah, Alice runs away from Rinko, most likely just sick and tired of these endless questions and staring at her and like essentially poking and prodding without touching, more or less, had herself shipped over to Kirito's house. They both end up in the family dojo, and the sparring session is over quite quickly as the force from both of them causes the training swords to just shatter into pieces. But at least Alice can meet the rest of the family, and even I don't get why Kirito's father gets to admonishing him for. Like, for what exactly? Because, I mean, they had to know he had a job, right? And that job was testing the STL. But, I mean, he would only be in there for, like, in the Underworld, he'd been there for, like, a few years. But outside, it'd only be, like a full, like, a 10, 12-hour day. But in the STL with the time lapse, it'd be, like, a number of years. So they had to know he had jumped, then he just up and disappeared. He got poisoned, got put into a coma for nearly 2 months. How in the ever-living hell do you admonish someone for being put in a coma? What the ever-living hell? But at least things are, peaceful. And Alice is actually the one who gets a cryptic email. They analyze it, and Yui determines that it's pointing back to the Underworld. So how Asuna, Alice, and Kirito get to dive in, and things have changed so much more in the Underworld than anyone would have expected, because they both end up like literally in space. Or in outer space, I guess. Yeah, whatever. And they end up in space right next to a massive battle with some giant Cthulhu eye thing. And the pilots, while they look just like Tisei and Ranie, their names are, respectively, their names are Stisa, Stisa, and Larane, Laura, for short. Yeah, and then they, Alice, Asuna, and Kirito can fight it. Yeah, and then apparently, I guess, the human empire, the different cities had different names, but I guess, the planet is called Cardenia? And then, a fade out to credits as, hands for what is supposed to be the final battle. To be the Interintelligence War. And hell, in the final moments, the final frames, do find out that the Metatron that Kaiba took over is kind of, more or less defunct on the ocean floor, holding some kind of connector cable, which essentially means that he was the one that sent the message to Alice after making sure someone could connect back to the Light Cube cluster and essentially saved all the floodlights. Yeah, man, that's the end of that. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this arc, and hell, even with Alicization, the first part of Alicization, there was definitely more of a focus on things in the Underworld, but of course, like I said, there was a lot more time passing in the Underworld than there was in the real world. And then this one, especially once the terrorists dropped the in-game time of a 1-to-1, then there was definitely an even balance between what's happening in Underworld, what's happening in the real world. Yeah, and this leads into what will eventually, one day, be the final arc for the Interintelligence War, or Until Ring arc. I guess it has like both names. Which I was actually looking things up. Apparently there is no new movie scheduled for the end of 2025, which kind of sucks, but apparently it was sparked like some false some false post on Facebook that just kind of spread out and went viral. Yeah, this yeah, it is unfortunate, and until like people on Reddit are speculating with, because like the whole interintelligence war, or Until Ring arc, like I said, whatever you want to call it. It's like at the rate the books are coming out, by the time it will eventually be adapted in a way that can be put to animation, might not be until 2030, or till maybe later. Well, at least in the meantime, like as of right now, I do have. Okay, well, no, this is going to be November, right? So that I have what, two progressive movies? Well, no, well, not well. Yes, I have two progressive movies. Eye of a Starless Night, Shazero in the Deep Night, or I forget the exact names, but yeah, essentially two Sword Art Online progressive movies, but not quite immediately, because December will be the first progressive movie. Then I'll have an anniversary Thoughtful Thursday. Then the second, the second progressive movie. Then going into GGO, the alternative GGO. Yeah, I really don't hope I have to wait yet another 5 years just for something more from Sword Art Online to come out. I want it now. But hell, it might be worth the wait, or honestly, it might not be. Who knows? Yeah. So but I will definitely keep an eye out, and hopefully, whenever a trailer drops, and hopefully a one at least with subtitles, I can definitely look at that, because I have watched. I think it was. Yeah, it was like season 3 of Arifureta. Like, a trailer dropped, but there was no subtitles, nothing. It was just completely in Japanese without any subtitles, and of course, YouTube's subtitling translation doesn't even work. Like, I can pick up on a few words here and there of Japanese because I've watched enough subtitled stuff. But like, when the YouTube translator trying to put translated subtitles in, it skipped over like a good 92% of the words that were being said that I could pick up. Like, maybe it was translating a bunch, but I could pick up several words, and it's just, why aren't you translating that? That was clear as day. How are you not translating that? Like, I can understand, like, just like incoherent mumbling, like if a character is going, but when a word is very clearly said and there's no subtitle translation, what the hell, YouTube? Yeah, but anyway, like I said, I will definitely keep an eye out for anything new Sword Art Online, and hell, once I finish with the alternative Gun Gale Online, I'll keep an eye out for more of that. Keep an eye, because like when the progressive movies were announced, there were supposed to be 3 of them, but it's been a few years. Where the hell is the third movie? I guess because they they did floor 1 progressive, but then they skipped the floor 5, and they're just, well, if we skipped all this, can we really progress? Dude, the entire Aincrad arc of Sword Art Online went from the very beginning of logging in to the end in 14 episodes. Yes, just skip the floor 10 then. If you're going to be skipping that far, just do something and show some progression. Maybe bring Sachi back for part of the movie. Maybe I don't know. Maybe something else. Maybe Kiyo's interactions with other players in the game. There's so many things you can do. So many things you can play on. There's actually a lot that can be done, but that is going to be for the future. Wow, I've been going on for quite some time, so I'm gonna get this moved around, edited together, and all that good stuff, and I will hope to see you in the next Thoughtful Thursday in a couple hours from now. Or, well, maybe less, a couple hours from when this publishes, then the comment shoutouts, and I hope to see you there, and in everything else I do, and so on and so forth. So, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't hit that bell so you can always be notified whenever I upload another video, and as always, have fun.